of $32,590.94 due to the outcome of the Conval lawsuit that we were a party to. So I will now have Lori explain to us what this is.
So they went back to the judge and asked for legal fees to be covered. And this was our share of the legal fees that were covered for the lawsuit. So it was a refund but that was spread over many years, and it's unanticipated revenue that's coming back to us this year. So I just need, because of the RSA's required that anything over 20 grand be brought to the board in a public forum, a public hearing, prior to accepting it. So we just need a board action to accept the unanticipated revenue.
We'll do that in the board meeting.
Are there other questions? Kevin?
Question, where will these funds be applied?
It is revenue. It'll come in, and I think account 1990, which is unanticipated revenue. It doesn't, that flows through the apportionment schedule. It doesn't get specifically applied to communities.
What action by the board would you need, since it's almost like found money, to be able to put that money back into the coffers of Charlestown for like the $16,600 that we kind of owe them? What would be the process of, what would you need from the board in order to do?
Great question. So the revenue doesn't, the revenue doesn't flow in the same way as expenses. So I mean, I guess if you want to identify that portion of these funds be applied to offset the expenses that were incurred for incorrect, like the error in personnel apportionment, that we could do that. And then I would just have to make sure that that flows on to, we would create a separate account for it. So it's going to Charlestown. So it would flow into the apportionment schedule to Charlestown. Would make it easier than, I mean, like I'm working on something else, but I'm not there yet to help offset that, but.
Yeah. Since it's there, I think it'd be a nice, easy way to get, wouldn't get forgotten either, so it'd be there. Do we need to make?
We'll make a motion in a regular meeting. We'll accept the funds, and then you can make a motion to make that recommendation. Regular meeting.
This person it's on the agenda.
I just added it.
Oh,
It's online.
Chaz, did you have a question or a comment?
No, I understand. Yeah, it's good. But now, are we gonna take a vote to accept it at the board meeting?
We will.
Good.
Absolutely. Any members of the public or the administration who wants to comment on this? Seeing none. I close the public hearing.
Yeah.
If everybody would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, we have a fairly heavy agenda today, but I'd like to start with having our leadership team and our board introduce themselves. So actually, let's start with Shelley tonight.
Shelley Andrews, Charlestown Rep. School Board.
Chaz Street, school board rep from Walpole.
Okay, Schwabe, school board rep for Elsted.
Kevin Keys, school board rep from Langdon.
Sarah Vogel, school board rep from.
Melissa Bascom, I'm an at-large member.
Misty Bushy, Director of Communication and Administrative Services, also the website.
Lori Schmidt, Business Administrator.
Chris Young, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum Instruction.
Sandra Reagan, Special Education Director.
Bill Nicky, Human Resources Director. Nick Cicero's Director of Technology.
Great, thank you all. So our first order of business is a request for an overnight field trip from the Vilas Halstead attendance area to Washington, DC. It's my understanding that Mr. Meeks is not here. Mr. Meek, excuse me, is not here, but we've all seen this document as part of our board packet. Mr. Hicks is here. If there's any questions, does anybody have any questions, concerns with this trip? Mr. Meek has done this numerous times. He is well organized, certainly has enough chaperones and such for these students. So seeing that there is no questions or concerns, may I have a motion?
A motion to
To approve.
approve the trip.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Hicks, if you would just let Mr. Meek know that we have approved and he's good to go. Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing about it when he gets back.
Yeah.
All right. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Will Davis. He is our representative, and I'm not sure it's not Horizon anymore. Okay, if you could just give us a little bit of background about how that happened. He'll be discussing the high school paving project.
Come up here? or-
Yes, please.
Good, okay. Yeah, so Horizons Engineering was acquired by Brucantis earlier this year, so nothing's really changing with the structure of our firm. I mean, with our group that we work in northern New England. It's just a new owner, as sometimes happens with engineering firms. So, yeah, I mean, I can give you a brief overview of where we are, what we've done, you know, so far and on the paving project, and then I was gonna see if we could talk about potentially some of the things you wanted to do around the bus depot, and then we could look at that, the secondary access planning that we started. That's not okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Alright.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So we started off doing a full survey. So we did existing condition survey and boundary survey, as well as wetland delineation of your whole property. So you now have a really well-defined ground survey of the entire property, which is great. All the boundaries are defined. It's stamped by a licensed land surveyor. So that was kind of our first step to get things in place to do some of the work that we're doing. Then we engaged geotechnical engineers. We did an RFP, got three different responses back to the investigation and reporting around the pavement rehab. So usually we have them do probes, and they bore down into the ground to try to tell what the soils are like. That helps us to define what we're gonna do for or recommend for the pavement reconstruction. To make sure you get a durable solution. So we selected M&W Soils. They have completed their work. I have their report as of this afternoon, so just digesting that now, and I'll certainly get that over to Lori to distribute to everybody. Some of the initial take, I talked to Randy Rhodes, who I'm sure some of you know. You know, the initial take is that the obviously the pavement is alligator cracked and pretty damaged. The material under the pavement consists primarily of sand and granular material, but there's not a lot of stone content. So that's part of why you're seeing the deterioration that you have, although it's just really old pavement as well. So the initial recommendation is that we do probably what's considered a reclaim. So we would go in and grind up all the existing asphalt and mix it in with that sand material that's underneath it. So we basically introduce stone into that material. It creates what we would typically put on the bottom layer, which is a bank run gravel material. So it's a much more sturdy, you know, base to start with, and then build up from that with some new crushed gravel on top, and then pavement. That's likely the path we would go down in terms of a recommendation. It saves a lot in trucking. So like the other alternative is to essentially remove the pavement, remove the material that's not adequate, truck it out somewhere, and truck new material in, right? So in a situation like this with this kind of volume, that's a lot of cost to truck back and forth. So to use what we've got, just kind of in place seems like a good alternative. So I think that's kind of the direction that I think we're headed with the roadway and parking reconstruction. We've also done some investigation around the permitting requirements. So the main permit that we thought might kick in is the alteration of terrain permit, which is the state drainage permit. That's based on the ground disturbance. So in New Hampshire, anything over 100,000 square feet ground disturbance typically would initiate the requirement for the stormwater permit. In this case, we're well over that. It's like 150,000 square feet. But they have what's considered a general permit by rules. So there's the section of the rules that allows for pavement reconstructions like this to take place without permitting. I did speak with the head of the bureau, and they felt like this would be probably meet that requirement. The only caveat is that depending on what we do or what you want to do around the bus depot and any other areas where we're kind of going outside the existing pavement that exists, that would probably move us outside of the general permit, but they would consider a waiver because of what we're doing and the big picture of the project is basically a pavement reconstruction. So we said that they have considered and approved waivers in the past for similar things, so that was a good initial take. So I think that hopefully is positive in terms of the permit you might have to do if you move forward with the project. Just as context, the AOT adds adds a little complexity and burden on the engineering side, but it primarily introduces the need for you to introduce a substantial amount of stormwater management on the site. So like detention ponds or other kind of drainage features like that to meet current regs. And then it also introduces like a 3-month permitting timeline that just takes a little bit more time to get things approved. So that's kind of what we've done to date. We've also prepared 2 kind of options for the secondary access routing that I can show you. That was essentially a desktop exercise, so we didn't do ground survey on the areas outside of your property. Imported topography and publicly available data to do planning. So essentially looking at where you might be able to go to get out to a road, which is off of your property. So I can pause there if there's questions. Clarify on that.
I only have one question about the alteration of terrain permit. You said it was for if we need drainage systems and whatnot. So even if we don't need it, if we can get the waivers, do you still recommend having additional management of all that stormwater? Has that damaged the property currently? Should we be looking to do something in addition, whether we need the permit or not?
Right, so I think that you're probably gonna wanna do some things in terms of conveyance. So that's like getting stormwater to the culverts, right? Maybe some improved ditches along some of the road. I know that some of it, the road kind of sits down a little bit. But in terms of adding detention or treatment, typically where it's not required, folks don't really want to do it. I mean, it's gonna add a substantial cost to the project to do that. I think we would mainly be looking at conveyance things, right? So things that are gonna prevent water from sitting in the roadbed, which could lead to, deterioration sooner than it should be. And just making sure that we're moving stormwater away from the parking lot, right?
So all that would still be considered.
It'll be considered. I think that we wouldn't go to the extent that would be required by AOT necessarily.
Okay.
Would be my recommendation, but you guys can tell me otherwise.
That's good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chaz.
Would the grade be the same as far as the height of the roadway? Because that's all along there's used for parking and games and things like that, so getting on and off the road. And I know in my case, they came through, the state highway came through and raised everything, and then they killed the trees on both sides. But I think just from an access standpoint, we're not making another 3 inches or 6 inches. We're grinding down and trying to replace what's there, so the height would be about the same.
It would be a little higher if we did the reclaim alternative. So it would, because we would basically grind up 12 inches that's, from the surface down, and then probably build up from there. So we might be looking at another probably 10 inches above what the existing pavement is now with that alternative.
Did you say 10?
10, like we would add probably 6 inches of gravels and then probably 4 inches of pavement.
Wow.
like a typical, you know, a standard pavement section is 22 to 24 inches.
All the way through. for the-
Yeah, and that's what's gonna help you have a durable, it's not gonna crack for another, you know, hopefully 80 years or.
We're all gonna have to
you know,
get an
50 years.
SUV to get over the hump, I guess.
Well, and that's something that we can talk about it. So if you have kind of on either side, you're saying people park along the side of
Yeah,
the road.
for events here, especially for the soccer games, so the side. So I don't know.
Well, maybe they should. Maybe we should widen something or find a place for people to park. So, I don't necessarily agree with people parking all over the grass and stuff like that, because
Yeah,
we have to maintain it, but. Maybe they shouldn't, maybe if they have to do that, then maybe we need to figure out parking down there. I'm sure creating a dirt parking lot will be a little bit cheaper than. Reconfiguring a road, so people can get on and off the grass. So,
or you just bevel it somehow, I don't know.
Right, we could feather it out a little bit, right? So you could probably do some.
Yeah, I mean, most cars, you know, pull off and get back on the road. The 10 inches is a lot, 10 inches is. You know, so car trying to get, it's like a concrete, it's only like 4 or 5 inches of concrete, something like that.
Yeah.
Are you including any beveling in your plan or?
Well, we haven't really started yet on the details of
part?
that, so I
Okay.
think that we can take that into consideration when we're looking at it. One of the things I was mentioning about the drainage is that, you know, I don't know, if you've had any issues, but it seems like the road kind of sits lower than the grade in some places, so that was a spot where it seemed like to be like there be ditching on the sides.
Yeah.
To move the water away from the road, get it to the culverts where it's supposed to go. So, you know, the informal parking,
Just, you know, keep that in your mind.
yeah.
It's a very good process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're mentioning raising 10 inches on the roadway, is that including the parking lot area going up 10 inches as well? Because that's gonna mess up the entrance of the all.
Right, so that wouldn't work. What we would typically do for that is we would probably recommend a reclaim, but then they would have to stockpile it. And then they would have the box cut out. Certainly the areas right by the building, right, and up against those existing areas that we're not disturbing. On the upslope side, for sure. Yeah, I did mention that we have to do that. And we could do a similar thing on the road, like if that's, you know, it just takes a little bit more work to essentially stockpile the material, box cut it out lower, truck some of that out. And put it over.
Find a place on property to dispose of or on property. Then clear less material for expanded parking areas, gravel parking areas. That should be. Yeah.
I can think of a few places. All right, does anybody have any other questions for Will? All right, so going forward, what does this look like?
Yeah, well, I should have brought these electronically if that you had the screens, but I think I was picturing us in the smaller room that we.
Yeah, we're not back where we were when.
So I do have plans. I don't know if this is the venue to try to look at things or who I should coordinate with in terms of like. For instance, I guess my questions are around the bus depot, like, what problems are we trying to resolve or, you know, what issues do we have that we're trying to fix there?
The bus is sinking in the mud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it simply like the layout of the gravel you have works, it's just you need to pave it? Is that?
I'm not certain that that's exactly the case. I think there needs to be additional area. I think we have significantly more transportation units going through there than we did when it was initially built. So I think, I don't know if Joey, if you have any thoughts on that.
My first thought is, everybody aware that the septic tank of that building is in the parking lot?
Oh,
Like you're
is that a part of
paving
it? It's not on this plan?
Check. That's the only thing that's been brought up to me, but anybody discussed paving that bus.
Okay, I know that was one of the intentions for getting this all surveyed was to find out where all of those things were, and so we had that proper discussion, so. That would be good to know.
Yeah, I can confirm that, and if not, we can certainly locate that. A lot of times, is it buried? Like, there's no cover to grade. Yeah. That's right. Okay.
So there was a committee that got together to bring it to this point. Is everybody here in favor of calling that group back together to talk about the bus depot, making sure we get all of these details kind of hammered out?
Yeah.
And then bring it back again for decision?
Makes sense.
You know where I stand. I really want to focus on paving the driveway. I understand the bus depot needs to be paved at some point. We don't even know if they know that there's a sewer thing down there. That presents a whole other issue. I'm assuming you don't put a parking lot over a sewer bucket.
Shouldn't.
And then you're also looking at the second access, and I just think that I think they should be two different projects, because at this point. Yeah.
Get the-
I mean,
intention was really for free.
you're looking at a huge increase in the budget this year. If you try to put all three of these projects together into one project, you're looking at millions and millions of dollars. And right now, we have a parking lot that should have been repaid 10 years ago. And if we continue on this trajectory, we're not looking at putting anything in front of the voters for at least another year. It doesn't sound like this committee is gonna be able to get together and put everything together so we can put it in the budget. I don't think Lori has it. And I don't think we've talked about money, so we're at least looking at another whole year. And in the meantime, people are continuing to drive out in that parking lot, which is gonna continue to deteriorate it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so. I do understand everything that everybody's trying to do, but I think our priority needs to be paving that parking lot out there. But
Well, the intention was to do it in 3 phases. So we can go forward with having Will put the numbers together. Put the RFP out for the parking lot and the driveway, and still have the committee come together to look at what would be phase 2, which would be the bus depot parking.
okay, so is the parking lot gonna be on for voters to vote this year? Parking lot and
I
driveway.
originally
So-
thought that it would be.
So this is something I want to talk with you about as well. So we can put together like an opinion of cost for that project, right? The driveway and the parking. And consult with some contractors. I don't think we would have time to bid it, right, to get to a bid document situation, but typically you would go. You would use that opinion of costs to go to a warrant article, and then you vote on it, and then if it passes, then at that point you would bid it. Would be my suggestion, which we could do we could do it pretty quickly in December, get some opinion of costs together. Because we now have the geotech work, I think we have what we need to basically put together that set plans.
So that had been the idea of the committee, was that we would have the parking lot and the driveway on the warrant for this coming warrant. And then, but we would continue to work on doing the other 2 phases.
Okay, well,
Do you want to make that motion
what?
to get that
I think
estimate
a
of cost?
committee member can. Is there a committee member here?
Yeah.
So if Sarah said that was their intention, then
Do you want to make a motion?
Sure, tell me what my emotion is. I have a lot of emotion, but.
The motion is to move forward, I'm sorry,
To ask for the cost estimate, or
to get the cost estimate and then start, well, I guess we would not need that in the motion. So yeah, the motion would be to get the cost estimate.
Yes, so I make a motion that we get the cost estimate. To be able to be put onto this year's one.
second.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns with moving forward with that at this time to get it on the warrant for March?
The cost estimate for the driveway and the parking lot.
Yeah,
Very good,
just
specific.
the.
I just want
not
just
the-
that.
Yes,
I want that to be specified because I hear Shelley.
yeah. Makes sense.
Seeing no more discussion on that. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, I would love for you to get that cost estimate to us. If you can do it in December, that would be welcome and appreciated.
What is your deadline for the warrant article?
Second Tuesday in January?
Or when would you need it from us, I guess? Just wanna leave a little bit of time.
Tomorrow.
Right.
Before Christmas. Oh, yeah, so I guess next, what, use this for Monday? Can we have it for a Monday?
Monday, the 15th, we meet
Is that
again.
too?
Monday for a week from today,
Yes. Is that too?
a little tight for us, I think. I'm not sure we'll be able to do that. We could definitely get it before Christmas,
By the end of like next week,
what's the end of next week?
the 19th?
What's strong
Yeah.
that day?
Christmas is the following week and a lot of us are
Yeah,
getting out of the
That's still
office.
dependent on the-
Yeah, but what is,
We can do
there
it.
was a legal date, right?
So our budget hearing is on the 14th, and Misty, am I correct that we have to post 7 days in advance of the budget hearing? Which would be the 7th.
We just have to post that we're having a hearing.
Okay,
We could, because we accept warrant, we accept articles up to the 13th.
okay.
Yeah.
So that would be the absolute drop dead date for suggestion.
The 12th really
This is too-
ideally, because we have a board meeting that
Yeah,
day.
that's okay.
Yeah, that's the drop
So
dead.
no later than the 9th of January, but preferably before Christmas.
okay. Well, how about we shoot to definitely get it to you before Christmas, and then if we have to do some back and forth, we get some questions, we can have that. That's something to make sure we had a little bit of buffer to
Right.
The January
clarify.
9th, yeah, so
Right.
you're absolutely drop dead, but anytime you give us ahead of that.
Yep, okay. And then it sounds like maybe you kind of reform the committee to get together and talk about those other two, the bus depot and secondary access.
Yes, we had always intended to make them 3 different projects, so we will reconvene, especially with that, in light of that other information. So we can, I really like to have that group around the table to look at these documents and have additional discussion, and then we can bring that to the board for 2027.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you so much. Are you gonna leave these with us so that we
Leave
can?
these with you, and I can provide all this electronically as well to Lori.
Oh, that'd be terrific. I'm sure that, that should be
Is-
attached to our
do we have
board
a contract in place to
document
cover all this stuff?
to the public.
You do.
You do, okay.
Well, thanks for
you.
being here, Will.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna need to discuss the committee at some point because some of the members are gone.
Has, well, yeah, they've gone on to do other
Yeah.
things as part of it. So,
Yes.
yeah, we can, add that perhaps Garrett.
Thank you, Will.
All right.
All right, our next agenda item is the budget. I'm sure everybody around this table has had time to dive right into the documents. We definitely had some concerns with those initial tax rate representations. So I will let Lori tell us what she has to tell us, and then we can have a discussion about what we would like to do to proceed.
To try to minimize confusion that we've had over the past few years with like revisions. I know that there have been some questions that have come up and that I'm working through to investigate. But I have not prepared another version. The next version will come out after we receive some guidance and feedback from you. And so then that would be a version 2 instead of a 1 and building on it, because then I want to just kind of. 1 was the administrator's initial proposal, and then 2 would be after we've received some feedback and guidance, and then we can go from there. I do have the draft default budget prepared. So again, it's draft and we know that the versions are changing, so I didn't want to put this out in too wide of a distribution. So we have paper copies here. If we need to make additional copies for the public, we can do so. But secret. So essentially, the proposed budget is exceeds the default calculation by $1,074,000. When we look at that and try to ascertain what is that comprised of, we have teachers sick leave buyback and early retirement that's factored in each year, and that changes, so we remove from our, as part of the default calculation, we remove what we paid out last year or budgeted for the prior year, and then we add back what is budgeted for the new year. And so the difference between those amounts was just under 150,000. We had a contract year one for our support staff in this current budget, and that gets subtracted out for a default calculation, and then we add in a contract year two. There was a little over $300,000 difference between those numbers. And then, of course, all of our capital reserve warrant articles that are once they're approved, they become part of your budget. Those need to be subtracted out as far in calculating the default, and that was 612,000. So between those three items specifically, that's about $166,000 that was included in the budget previously, is not included in our current budget, and had to be removed from our starting point in the default formula and calculation. You'll see that we're increasing the default, and this is again per the formula set forth by the RSAs, to include the health insurance increase, because that's contractual, and our out-of-district tuition amounts, those are contractual. We had a minimal vacancy management in the budget for this year of 13,000. That was a one-time thing, gets removed or added back for the calculation. So that's how we've come up with the default proposed, or the default as you see in front of you. So, yeah, questions?
I do more procedural.
Mhm.
How does the current budget affect the default budget? You said this might change based on whatever the budget committees, or we come up with changes to the budget. How does that affect this default budget?
So it's primarily, if you look at the reduction section, the next to bottom last line is eliminated positions. So if you have a vacant position, that would remain in your default calculation and formula. But however, if you had a position in your prior budget, and you're eliminating that position, that eliminated position gets removed from the default
Gotcha.
calculation. So that is where I always try to hold off as long as possible to prepare this. So there's, you've gone through the exchange and the feedback, and that's where I would suspect that it could be changing.
That makes sense. All right, thank you.
So I guess that's important to, again, emphasize that this is the draft. It's our first version that we're looking at. And then it's based on decisions that are made going forward. This may or may not change.
What was the 2026 budget total? Do you remember that number? How much more, is this more than 2026 budget?
Budget, so
Well,
the default calculation. So
the approved from the warrant article last
so
year.
that's at the top of the schedule. The
Okay.
approved 2026 budget, all inclusive of all the warrant articles that were approved and special funds, was 38,088,131.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the starting point for then adjusting
Mhm.
to come up with the current default.
So the default budget is
Calculation.
less than the last year's approved budget.
Yes.
We have a contract being negotiated. How does that affect all of this?
That does not get factored in at all to the default calculation, and the budget as was presented does not include any increases for those union members.
Okay, and so if there was a situation where the budget was, so that gets voted on separately.
That's voted on separately.
And so it doesn't have, if the budget failed and we went to the default budget, there would still be the vote on the teacher's contract as a separate warrant article.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I just wanted to, I kind of knew that, but I wanted to hear you say, yes, you're right.
Yes, yes, you are right.
Just remember a year when we didn't, when that didn't work.
Yeah, so again, all of our special warrant articles, whether they're capital reserves or the contract, those all are voted on individually and then added to the budget. So our proposed budget, whatever goes to the budget committee into, deliberative and then onto the warrant. That would be in warrant article 1, and then all of the other items for consideration would be separate warrant articles.
Does the support staff still get their increase if they go to the fall budget?
It's a contractual obligation, yes. So the default calculation sets the bottom line. We still have contractual obligations that we would need to fulfill. And then we would just have to figure out the allocation of the funds to meet our obligations.
Right.
Are there any more questions from the board regarding this fall budget? Thank you for putting this together so well.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I had also said that I'm working on teasing out the tax rate, the change in the tax rate, and how that how each component of like revenue, loss of revenue and expenditures factor into that tax rate. I have some nuances that I need to tease out. I will have that for you on Monday.
Okay. I do have a concern to bring up about the revenues. I would like to see that we appropriate 100%, as has been our past practice.
Okay.
And the reason being that I don't want to charge people certainly more than we have to at this point. I think that's gonna be a hardship, no matter how we go. It's been our past practice to do 100%. The state has, my understanding has always come back very, very close to that. If it's at all below it, it's very, very close. So for our purposes this year especially, I'd like to see that. I also want to make sure we avoid what could be some confusion with revenues at the end and not having them appropriated back to the towns that they belong to. I want to make sure that adequacy aid is very clearly appropriated to the towns that have the need.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we're all clear and understand why I suggested the 95%. It was a conservative approach with the revenue because we have consistently lost adequacy aid each year. Because our enrollment is declining, our adequacy aid is going to decline. Our free and reduced benefits, the participation numbers are declining. Those two factors have a really significant hit on the adequacy aid. So that is why I recommended the 95%. We can certainly go with the 100%, but what happens is they give us an estimate in November, and then they adjust it after they get see our year-end numbers and stuff, they adjust it in the fall. And it's adjusted based on our actual numbers. So at that point, when they make an adjustment, they have to give us at least 95%. So that is the least amount that we're ever going to receive. We're not necessarily going to receive 100%. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on that, and I can make whatever adjustments, because it does certainly impact the tax rate.
So I played with those numbers today, this afternoon, and it was like almost 80 cents difference for Charlestown, which is a big change. I would prefer we go to 100%, but I would like to hold off on that until we see where we wind up with the budget. If we wind up getting closer to a reasonable increase for all the towns, then think about going to 95%. Not, I don't think we cannot do it while we've got a $5.84 increase, so.
No. So can we talk a little bit about what that looks like if we do get it down to, I don't know, $1, that might be reasonable. And we do then have a conversation and approve, making it 95%. So say 100% does come in. Is that a difference going to be appropriated to each town individually, or is that gonna go to the district's revenue?
Adequacy aid always comes into the town.
Does the check go directly to the town office? in
No, it
Charleston?
never goes directly to the town office, but it's applied. So what happens is that during the tax rate setting process, we do the apportionment. And in that apportionment, shoot, I should have brought that schedule with me. It
This
has
is the DOE 25.
this, you do the DOE 25, and then as to wrap that up and finalize it, you have to sign an apportionment document. The state usually calculates that for everybody else, and you kind of have to agree. You review it, and unless there are glaring errors, you agree. We, on the other hand, provide them with our documentation, and they take days to review. No, not, they're getting better, because they're starting to understand. We've had a lot of just exchange over the last couple of years, talking through the points. But they look at our schedule, and then they convert the data into their format, but it still agrees to my schedule that I've generated. And the adequacy aid and the swept income is all applied directly to the town, and that's based on the adequacy formula. And there's this mammoth spreadsheet that I get that shows every school district in the town, or the state, not school district, it's actually town, because the adequacy and swept are allocated by town. So I have this spreadsheet that, it all has to tie out together. So that if we budgeted for 95% and received 100%, 100% of the money allocated and attributable to Charlestown would still go towards Charlestown in the tax rate setting process.
Okay, so just to be clear, what we set right now, what we use for revenue to set the potential tax rate that people are gonna be voting on in March is still not going to be the tax rate that they would
Not
have.
finalized, no. So what
And there is no chance that any of that revenue would get commingled.
not adequacy or swept,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Thank you.
I understand that we all look at the tax rate, and that really drives our perception and how we vote. You're voting on the expenses, not the revenues and the tax rate.
Well, we might understand that, but
Right.
that's not what the public
Right,
is
no,
looking at.
I know.
They're not looking at anything that we do around this table or
I-
in any of these buildings.
I understand.
So we just have to be incredibly cognizant of what
Mhm.
they're going to be feeling when they walk into
Mhm.
that voting booth.
But every time, in each and every year, in the annual report, that's an estimated tax rate. It is not a final tax rate. It's how the activity during the year transpires. I mean, for this year, we're receiving additional special education aid than we had budgeted for. But those type of aids are not town specific, so they get allocated according to our apportionment schedule. Adequacy and swept are very specific to the towns and get credited directly to the towns.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to be one of those people that is gonna push for 100, so you know that obviously.
No, that's fine.
But two. So. At least for Charlestown, and maybe we can. Really bring this home to the principals. There used to be a massively huge push for people to fill out the reduced lunch paperwork. I mean, I cannot stress to you, as a parent, I got sick of getting the emails or notifications that we need to fill it out. Even if you don't qualify, you need to fill it out. There was a dramatic, and has been over the last at least 2 years, a dramatic decrease in stressing that paperwork get filled out. And I do think that, and it's not gonna help us this year, But I do think at the beginning of next year, we need to make a massively huge push. You could say all the towns, it would benefit everybody. Because my understanding of it is, doesn't matter if I made $100,000, it still benefits us to get into doing the paperwork. I understand on a business level, it may not. But if I'm making 100,000 and I'm filling out that paperwork and all of a sudden I get laid off and I gotta take a job at 20,000 and I haven't been doing that paperwork for 5 years. But all of a sudden I get laid off and I'm only making 20,000, I'm still gonna do that paperwork with my new numbers. So it's trying to get people and parents to understand the importance of that paperwork. Whether or not you qualify or not, it's best practice to at least do the paperwork that schools send home, right? Instead of just tossing it aside. Because I do think it helps each town when you have a really strong push to get that paperwork filled in and to get it back. So I would like to see that, not that I'm gonna have any control over it next year. Well, I will, because I'll hound Alyssa to make sure if I don't see something. But I do think it's important. As a district, we used to stress doing that paperwork. And I think during COVID, we kind of got laxed, right? Well, understandably so. Okay, understandably so. I had a third grader that was doing school via a laptop, which doesn't work. So I get it. But when we came out of COVID, we send out the paperwork and I think we do like maybe one reminder, but I think we need to get back to where there's a real strong push for that. So that's just mine.
Very important 2 cents.
Because even if you only have 10 families fill it out, and if they qualify, that helps. It helps them, one, and it helps us as a district, and it helps your town, so.
There are a lot of folks in the middle that may qualify, that don't submit, different reasons, but would certainly help the district,
You know. And some people don't realize what those lines are. Like he just said, like, you may have never done that paperwork and all of a sudden 1 year you did it and you qualified and you didn't even realize it. And then all of a sudden that makes a difference. Just because you qualify doesn't mean you need to do it, right?
Absolutely.
So.
yeah.
All right, now to the budget itself. Does anybody have anything to discuss in order to affect the bottom line? Do you have anything you'd like to bring up with Lori, with the rest of the leadership team?
I heard through the grapevine, the budget committees has addressed the health fund, pulling that in.
So there was a suggestion made during, I believe our last board meeting that they would like to see the board, address that. So to be clear, the budget committee is free to make any recommendations, but it's the board's decision on what they want to do and how they want to address that. Health, self-funded health, capital reserve. That's what you're referring to, right?
Or is there a formal
We can
briefing
talk
from
about
the
it.
budget committee later on at the?
No, if you wanna talk about it, let's talk about it.
Okay, because I would like to pull that huge $700,000 amount into the budget, at least to alleviate some of it.
So it would be, and I was going to get a legal, written guidance on this, but I don't have it at this time. But over the course of the years and discussing this with attorneys and the DRA, we would need to put a warrant article out there to essentially close that capital reserve. And then what would happen is July 1st, if it's voted and approved, it would close on July 1st. It would then roll into the general fund and be part of the surplus.
The health insurance, or are you talking about the special ed?
I'm talking about the health insurance, the capital reserve for self-funded health insurance.
That particular health insurance fund can only be used to fund claims, and since we no longer administer all of that,
Right.
we can't use it. So the purpose of that fund has to be changed legally by the voters.
Oh, I knew about the
And-
special, I didn't realize that applied to health too.
Yeah, and to do that, you would have to close the fund. And so the problem with the suggestion that was made with regarding special ed is that we could I don't think we can just tweak the language for use. You need to close it and reestablish it. So if you close that special ed fund,
You need the court's
and
permission
we
or
would
something,
need
right?
an additional warrant article for the public to vote on to reestablish a fund. And that's really scary.
Yeah, that's like.
I mean, I don't like the language for use. It would be easier to, it would be more beneficial to the district if we could use the special education fund to cover unanticipated costs, without the entire district having to go into a default situation.
Yeah.
I absolutely would prefer to have that language, but I believe, and I will need to seek legal clarification on that, I believe we would have to close the fund and establish a new one, which is completely two separate warrant articles and
Yeah.
actions.
But for the health insurance,
For the health, if you wanted to use it for something else, like over the years while I've been here, I'm going into year three.
They've been rough years.
Every year that I have been here during budget discussion, we've talked about, oh, well, that might be a good boon for the paving project.
Yeah.
At this stage, I mean, like, you can't say we wanna close it and use it for the paving. You can close it. And then it would go into surplus. You could have make a different choice for using the money, but
So,
I mean,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. I
So
was looking,
there could be some thought process on this. If we think that the paving project this year may get voted on and may get approved, we could close that, we could do a warrant, close that out, and of course, we can't say what we would spend it on, but that money would go back into the general fund, correct?
Mhm.
And could we allocate some of that fund to go into the paving project?
that's what, I don't know if it would be better to have a separate warrant article to do that, or if that would be language embedded in the warrant article to approve the paving project, to fund up to X amount from surplus money if available or something
Well,
like that.
you said you're gonna talk to legal?
Yeah.
Alright, so that's, okay.
yeah,
Is it
because-
possible to consider taking that fund and then distributing it directly to the capital reserves that we have already set up? Can you take it from that and then ask to be putting it in others?
Again, it would have to be separate. You can't close a fund and repurpose it all within one article, is my understanding. You could, so when you close the fund, it becomes part of your surplus for the year. It rolls over. So, when you create a new, reserve, or you're funding the 250 that we often fund, there's a language about it being from the surplus, and, as of January 1st. That 700 would close in and be part of that pot of gold at July 1st. That could then be,
Because it could be those steps, you close it, goes into surplus, which would then essentially filter into the capital reserves. If we have a warrant article that says we would like to fund the paving project from capital reserves, it would be funding it in that avenue.
Yeah.
or
We'll
put X
figure it out.
amount into,
Yeah, see, I was looking at it to, cover some of this $899,000 increase for health.
The
That-
struggle, let's go ahead, Lori.
so. We can't specifically allocate that for this purpose. It would
Okay.
be,
Because
it would close and it would go into, it would reduce the tax rate. It would be a return on taxes to the towns to reduce the tax rate for the, when it's set next fall.
Okay, but it wouldn't be this budget, it would be the next one?
Mhm.
Okay,
And then you'd have to be careful, cause you don't wanna increase the surplus, because then everybody's gonna see these exaggerated surplus
Yeah.
numbers. If there isn't a note, hopefully Lori's still here and she can note it, or Misty can, to say, hey, guys, do you remember when you did this?
Mhm.
Because that's where this came from, because what we all see is that $1 million.
I know.
Ever since I've been on this board, we've given back $1 million plus.
Yeah.
And that's what people see, and they're like, oh, there's gotta be plenty of money that we can cut
Yeah.
because we have $1 million plus, but it doesn't.
Say
So
what,
if we have almost $1.5 million to
Mhm.
$2 million because we closed this account,
mhm.
I just,
So I actually was looking at historical information on the fund balance when I was working on the tax rates and I think it was in fiscal year 22, which of course is coming off of COVID. Like when we started getting all that excess money from the state, that's when we started the $1 million. Prior to that, it was 129,000, which is really close.
But does that
Yes.
include the 500 that we had been putting into the capital? So we weren't funding the capital reserves?
No, that, I think.
No, that's after that. That was really like
Yeah.
600,000 or 700,000.
We haven't done that in a long time.
But we could access that at
Right.
least if we wanted to with a warrant article and put it toward the paving.
You
Something.
could close it and then you can
Because the
do,
paving's gonna be-
yeah, some additional language to try to use it that way or to put it into the capital reserves for the buildings.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of money to pay that.
Okay,
But once it's paid, then we'll come up here and walk every day.
okay.
And I'll kiss it. I'll get it.
And I had a question too. I understood you deleted that position or you internally you discussed deleting the new position that you're proposing. Is that correct?
You're talking about the CTE director?
The CE director.
We haven't made any decisions.
Oh, so
We haven't made any changes from version 1B. We're waiting for some feedback and guidance from you guys and we have a very long session scheduled tomorrow with administration to further discuss the budget.
okay, that was one thing that caught my eye with the huge increases that we don't really, I'd love to have it, but I can't see approving it this year, adding a position because of the budget increases. So that caught my eye. The only other thing that stood out was I thought the junior highs did great. K through 8, give yourselves a pat on the back. And I wanted, I'll throw it on the table, we don't have to discuss it now, but just potentially the superintendent money and the associated superintendent money and all the retirement accounts and all that. Look at that potentially, taking out of the budget and giving you guys a shot. Without that hanging over your heads. And then we can stick it in next year, so if we need to.
Well, we do need to have that discussion a little bit after this one to decide.
Yeah,
What
but
the
that was
leadership-
the only things that caught my attention, just to try to access the big money. Superintendent money and then probably not having that new position. So, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, Charleston's, K through 8 budget's pretty tight. I would like the high school to do a similar exercise. I don't know, I mean, it's hard for me to read the budget, but if we're paying students to manage things on the weekends, I think we really need to look at that. Whether or not that, is something that actually needs to be in the budget. And I know it's not a lot of money, and I know that I have been a part of conversations where people are like, oh, $100,000 when you're talking about almost a $40 million budget really isn't that much money, or 10,000 isn't really that much money, and at this point, it is a lot of money. If we try to go to the I'll just say it, if we try to go to the voters in Charlestown with this increase. I'm not so sure they're gonna wanna stay in this district anymore. So I just think we need to be really, really mindful of that. Because yeah, I mean, this one's tough. This one's really, really tough, so I think I agree, K through 8 in all the towns. Have,
I was part of that little group over there. I was watering my eyes. I mean, seriously. I thought that
yeah,
was-
they really have tightened their belts tremendously you gotta give kudos to all the towns, so I don't necessarily mean to point out Charlestown directly, but all of them. And I think we really need to look at that high school up here, and we really, really need to tighten that thing. I'm not saying you're gonna find $1 or $2, but even if you found 20 cents at this point, we gotta do something. And I agree, we gotta look at superintendent line, everything.
One thing I would like to see for your meeting tomorrow with all of the administrators is to very specifically look at, and it does come to the high school, and I'm sorry to say that, but there are some classes with very few students in them. I would like to make sure that we are looking at what's absolutely necessary. There are some classes that we have here that people can go out into the public and take, and that is not necessarily our focus here as an educational facility to offer that. So we are gonna have to have people look at what's absolutely necessary and make some really tough decisions about what we can offer next year. I know we have the program of studies on our future agenda. That's going to color what goes in that document for next year. So I know it's not going to be easy. And I know there's going to be some classes that are a little bit larger, but I think we're at that place. There's not a lot of room for vacancy management. There's not a lot of room or any other options, but to say the classes have to be full. And if they're not full, we can't run them. One thing I also want to bring up as part of the budget is that, of course, the state is making some big changes. We are looking at basically open enrollment across the state. What we need to look as a board at what we are really, really good at and what's going to draw people here. And then let other places do what they're really good at and maybe not try to be everything to everyone. I don't want to cut it so that, or I don't want to be in the place where the budget gets cut so that we are at the bare minimum, because I still think we have an opportunity to provide something really unique and special here. But we have to consider what that looks like. What is our niche? What are we going to draw kids here for? What can we do really, really well and cut off all of the extra things? Sooner rather than later. I've never heard this room this quiet.
I honestly think that everybody sitting in this room understands that we're up against the wall now.
Yeah,
And we've been going up against the wall for many years. And maybe not even a wall, maybe it's a cliff. We've all been taking steps towards this cliff for years. And I think we all realize that we're one more step and we're off that cliff. And we've hit it. And really honestly, this is nothing against leadership, nothing against the teams that they have and the teachers that we have. Everybody in this district is phenomenal. And I truly believe they are the best that we have. And it's not them, it's the system that we're all trying to work in. And it has taken a hold of us and it is strangling us. And unfortunately, we are just like every other small district in this state is at that point. And we've been very fortunate in the last couple of years to kind of dodge a lot of big things. And we're at the point now where we just can't dodge them anymore. And we gotta have those tough conversations that I don't think any of us have wanted to have over the last 3, 4, 5, when we came out of COVID, right? It's since we've come out of COVID that things have gotten really hard. This is really hard.
I don't think anybody expected to have the decline in enrollment as sharp as it has been. So, go ahead, Kevin.
I have a question about, I'm a big proponent of CTE. I completely believe in CTE. But what are our contractual obligations to CTE? We have to have it. I believe we are a CTE center, correct? Are we required to attend Keene? Are we required to attend Springfield or Valley Tech? And just,
I think those are all discussions that we can have. The regional agreement between Keene and Fall Mountain has some bearing, but at the same time, there's a lot of things moving forward that are kind of unanswered when it comes to that. Partially with open enrollment, and what does that look like within the state? So there are discussions around the regional agreements and what they mean. But currently we have about 36 students going to Keene, I believe, and about, Sarah, you can, 30 going to River Valley?
Yeah,
30 to Keene, to Springfield?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No. 20,
I think that's not.
20.
Okay.
20 to Springfield.
I'm not aware of a contractual agreement with them. It's just with the CCC and Keene.
And that's state contractual. They set up the regions. We have nothing to, we don't get to.
Right,
we don't
right,
get to
I knew
choose.
And
So,
and
what's that?
River Valley is a choice.
River
River
Valley's a
Valley.
choice, and River Valley is, the students can only go to River Valley if it is a program that is not offered at our region, within our regional agreement.
Brad or Sarah, do you know what Springfield is, River Valley is offering that Keene is not?
Audiovisual.
Criminal justice,
And.
health services,
Yeah.
those are the three big ones.
Mhm.
A smattering of others, so I don't think we've had
So-
many kids attend.
So Clean's offering the CAD program now? Or like, I thought some really good programs at Springfield that Keene wasn't offering. This is 15 years ago, so maybe they, expanded.
Keens
Keene quite a
continuing to
bit.
expand.
What's that?
The,
Keens continuing to expand, and they
Add
have plans to
things.
continue to expand
the,
further, so as they gain more programs, we obviously lose the access to River Valley.
Okay,
the engineering program that Keene is offering, there's been discussion between Keene and River Valley about whether they're actually the same or not,
okay.
but Keene is continuing to say that it is, so.
Okay.
Springfield actually offers more in theirs, but. They
Yeah,
offer it,
those
so.
Rapid Spring, they used to, years ago, this is years ago, first time I was on the board, but they did a beautiful job with the kids over there.
It's a
They still do.
fantastic
I
project.
had kids that were having discipline problems here, getting Cs and Ds, and you go over there and they're like model students, they're. Yeah, perfect, because whatever they're doing is what they're in tune to do, so. It's great, they had a great program for it.
just a correction, Brad, is it's 19 students.
I was gonna say, I think it's 19.
So are there other options? Like I know we've had a presentation to this board about opportunities for students to go work at Sullivan County and get licensed as LNA and things like that. Does that take the place kind of health services? Like, can we find these things for students in other ways that aren't as expensive as potentially River Valley? I would just like you to consider it as part of the bigger picture. I don't ever want to take away these opportunities, and especially being from Charlestown, Springfield's right there. I mean, especially during COVID, it was so much more convenient to get there than it was to get from the north end of this district all the way to Keene.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, we also have an ELO coordinator. Like, is there ways to help these students find that in the communities instead of paying tuition? I'd just like to know what that looks like. I did have one question about transportation for over to River Valley and Cheshire. Do we get reimbursed for both of those?
We get We get reimbursed for transportation to, Keene. They have a grant, that we're gonna be applying for to try to get, our full tuition costs, I mean, the full, transportation costs reimbursed. For this year, but that's not a guaranteed of it.
And that's just a Keene.
No, we would include, I think the transportation costs to,
Okay.
the River Valley for this grant.
And that would be what this,
Yeah.
we already have there anyway, but it's
Yeah.
not necessarily going for. When do we know about that?
They're putting it out, opening it up for bids soon.
Oh, so we
like,
haven't
information,
applied yet. Okay.
yeah. So the way the state, they have a bucket of money and they reimburse tuition, I mean, transportation first, and then they allocate the amounts for tuition. So right now we're receiving about $2,500 for, that's what we have to pay to go to Keene. And we get reimbursed, and then, we receive that same per student reimbursement for our kids that are attending River Valley. But their tuition is much higher, because they're not subsidized by the state. So it's costing us about $7,500 a student.
Is there room for us to negotiate with River Valley? Or is that?
That's already a significantly discounted rate, like a 50% rate.
So it's set, like there is no.
Yeah, I don't know the
Conversation,
conversation room for
like-
negotiation, but we can try, but.
Yeah, and just, I'm from this board, I'm on that board as well, and, River Valley's, overall tuition is in the lower third of the costs in the state of Vermont, so it's a lot, but it's not like it's the most expensive in Vermont, so.
And I wish we didn't have to have this conversation
They
about
do-
it, but.
They do offer a very good, program, so.
Do we, I know there has been conversation in the past about bringing additional programs here as part of, our CTE offerings. Are we developing those? Are they still going forward, or where do we stand with that process?
We have one in the program of studies to begin next year. Animal, veterinary, like science. It was why I was asking for a full-time CTE director who would also be in charge of ELOs to make that bigger and more robust. So that we could look to add a criminal justice program and perhaps, make this our building a more marketable place for people to send to.
So are we able to, are we able to go forward with that tech program if we do not hire a full-time director? Do we have, I know there's like,
We can go forward without a full-time, but I have to look.
okay.
Yeah.
That would be good to know, because it does affect what we offer if the decision is made not to.
We have to save where we can, invest wisely. And as with Kevin, I think investing in a CT coordinator, I would lean towards being okay with that, especially if we can say the following year, we're gonna offer criminal justice. The following year, we're gonna offer one more. I'm not gonna ask for a dedication of a following year after that, but if, as long as we can see progress being made within that, what you don't wanna do is add that CTE and then add the vet, tech one, and then not move down the road, because that brings money into the district, and that's what we're so short of.
Well, that's what I would like to discuss. If that's what's gonna be the draw to Fall Mountain, and we can monetize it as a part of this Region 13 and such. I think that director, just like a grant writer can write enough grants to pay them their own salary, that director becomes paid for through their ability to bring students here who will pay tuition. So
But it's
we
gonna
need to
take
consider
time to
that.
develop, so we need to understand, we invest now, we get the reward down the road, right? It's everybody. I mean, that's the goal of that. So,
Absolutely, I'm in 100% agreement. What I'm really wondering is if we have this vet tech program and we can do it with our current administrative schedule for the CTE programs without adding an additional position. If it is determined to be successful, then we add the additional administration and show the rest of the state that we have the ability to grow. They're gonna see us and pursue us. So I think those positions come before that CTE director, if it's at all possible to do it that way. I just don't know what the laws are, like, for how many classes you offer if you have to have a full-time director.
Who does the function now? That a CTE director would be doing? Is it the part
We
of
have a,
guidance, or is it over Bruce's area,
No,
or
it's a part-time position.
correct,
it's a part-time
He's a
position?
part-time
position.
coordinator, yes.
Who has it?
It's,
Deb Connell,
Deb,
Deb?
Connell,
Connell.
I don't think I met her.
she's wonderful, you should meet her.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Other option, can we ask our grant coordinator to look into grants to funding CTE coordinator? Is it
So our
possible at all?
Perkins, our Perkins grant does partially fund our current coordinator. Our grant, the person that we have that works with us for grants, currently is, it's a part-time role contracted service, and, her services are restricted to utilizing, our title grants. So I'm not sure, that'll be.
It would fall in, the Perkins grant you can utilize as part of that, and it would increase as you increase with programs. However, at the same time, that science that we're looking at, for next year would fall under the ag. So in theory, it falls under the same type of, programming that we currently have. As you start branching out past that, like into criminal justice, that would get into other areas that eventually, depending on how much growth we see, would require a full-time director versus a part-time director.
I was thinking of also looking at private grants, not just
competitive grants?
not just government grants. But maybe there's some opportunity out there to fund that position from someone who believes in CTE as much as we do.
There are a lot of them out there. Don't know how easy they are to.
But we don't have a grants administrator who can do that. That'd be hard. That'd be a heavy lift. Because they are monsters. And not fast. You wouldn't know before the budget season either.
Question, with the continuous decline in enrollment and decline in new kids coming in the communities, when or where, how do we go about looking at our classroom sizes? You mentioned that, I think particular to the high school, but when do we look at all of our facilities and the enrollment and the, 10 facilities? I mean, is that something we should also be looking at? The decline in enrollment, and should we be doing some more combining and reducing our costs with regards to facilities?
So in the last few years, we've amended our articles of agreement to allow each individual towns, each of the 5 towns in our district, to choose what they have within their zip code, so to speak. And so there's been plenty of discussions around what that looks like, but it really is dependent on the people in those towns to say, we're ready to give up our building, give up having our little local schools and work to combine them with other towns. And so I think it kind of goes without saying, we would welcome anybody who wanted to come to the table and help them figure out what that looks like. I know Kevin's done quite a bit of work on that, as part of the withdrawal committees and such. if somebody wanted to, I think we absolutely could entertain that.
So it has to be town initiated.
It can go either way, but it goes better that way.
Right.
I think the board needs to start having those serious conversations. I think we're at that point.
That's
Right. I understand that we're very protective of our little schools and we love them very much. And yeah, because I mean, Charlestown is still, for most of the people that live there, is a high school. It's not a middle school. So they're very attached to that building. And I understand that because I'm attached to this high school, right? Because this is the high school that all of us went to, but I do think that we need to begin to have those discussions, whether Walpole withdraws or not. But if Walpole does take off, it's not going to be a choice discussion. For the remaining towns, we will have to come together
It's all of it.
and we will have to do what we need to do. However, Jim Fenn, 7 years ago-ish, maybe longer, brought forth a middle school and we all scoffed. However, I do think that he saw some things that maybe we weren't ready to see. And I do think we need, I understand where you're coming from, because if it's a board decision and we bring it to the voters, it's not very successful. But at the same time, I think it needs to be collaborative. And I do think that there are people in all the towns that might be willing to look at that, and I think we need to harness those people in and help us come up with, because 11, 12, 13 buildings, we can't, it's not
Yeah.
feasible anymore. So,
It is on the agenda for us to talk about future public forums, and one of those options is reconfiguration, so we will be talking about it again in just a few more minutes.
Oh, yay.
Yes. But it is, I mean, it is important to talk about in terms of the budget as a whole too, because it's not just individual towns and their own school budget. It is the maintenance and the facilities, and those all run through the methods and how that is affecting the apportionments that aren't not working for us anymore. So.
or even the capital improvement projects that each town takes on a yearly basis. Could you pool those capital improvements together along with the high school capital improvement? If we lose the early learning center, which we may or may not, because of declining enrollments, right? Is there room, and would it be cheaper to put an addition on over there to add additional room up here to bring 8th graders up? I don't know. There's 100 different things that we could do. You know, do we make this a middle school / high school? I think Charlestown has done very well. The middle school has done well to show that you can put little kids in the same building as bigger kids and keep them completely separated. Well, as separated as you possibly can. As far as I know, ever since that change, there has been no issues between a 5th grader and an 8th grader. So, is it possible up here to do something like that where you have a 7th grader and a senior and they don't ever see each other? I do think it's possible. Look how big this campus is. There are things that we can do, I think, to help these towns, you know.
There are a lot of examples as well of 7 through 12 schools. There's K through 12 schools still here in the state. And so there are ways to do it. There are people to talk to about how they've managed it. So I'm excited actually to have those conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there anything else that this board wants to ask of our administrators and our leadership team as they meet tomorrow? Any other suggestions?
Misty should bring chicken salad for them.
I was thinking.
I would even donate money for your chicken salad because it's not gonna be
Bagels
as
and
easy.
chocolate.
Huh?
There'll definitely be bagels and chocolate.
Oh, if that works for them, then I'm all set, but. Yeah, it's not gonna be an easy day.
So, we do have, several members of our budget committee here. They met several times. They met yesterday. And they have some suggestions. You're meeting again Wednesday, I understand, correct?
Correct.
Is this something you'd like us to come to? How do you want to?
merrier.
Well, I don't know if you want to express to us what you discussed yesterday or how you want to go about.
Version. We're of the opinion that we need to cut $1.5 million to start. It sounds like everybody up there kind of sees and hears it too. We're in a bad spot. I mean, nobody in this room is stupid.
So just so we all know that that conversation is coming in the very near future and, hoping to come to consensus on what that looks like when we present it in January.
I do wanna be on the same page this year, though. I really do. I want all of us sitting in this room, budget committee, leadership team, and the school board. To present to the public a really united front. Because none of these conversations are easy. And I do think that it does split the communities up when they hear. This one wanting to do this and this one wanting to do that. It's difficult for all of us. It's difficult for our communities. It's difficult for our staff. I mean, that's just my wish. Whatever people wanna do, they'll do. I mean, I think I stood against the school board last year and the leadership team and. You know, I probably second guess that because then it doesn't look like a united front. So if we could all get there. It would be nice, but 1.5 is hard.
So I look forward to Monday. We'll have a new presentation. Monday, the 15th, we meet again because it's our second meeting of the month and we don't want to meet right before Christmas.
Okay.
But time is of the essence, so will we bring you version 2 to us
I will
then?
bring a version 2, but it will likely come to you at the meeting and not like in advance for you to dive into, just because of time.
I'm okay with that. You guys are working hard, everybody's working hard. I mean, it's ideal if we could see it before,
Yeah,
but.
I did, when you sent it to us electronic, I was able to look at it and go through things. So I know.
Could have it a couple hours before the meeting, maybe.
There.
We'll check it.
Maybe.
We'll just need time, maybe
Yeah.
glance through it as we're talking, so.
Right.
Okay, but you'll be able to bring us an updated default with that as well?
Mhm.
Okay,
I will bring an updated default, an updated tax sheet, explanation of the tax rates and how each component factors into the proposed or estimated tax rate. I guess I want to make that distinction. It's not our proposed tax rate by any means. It is the estimate as a result of.
As a result
of
of-
what we're.
I have a question for Garrett. Do we have details from you as to how you came up with the 1.5 and any recommendations on where you see?
We have a list of recommendations and then, some of it's philosophical too on just the tax rate is unsustainable for the communities and the, multiple years in a row of $1 million left over or more. So the goal of 1.5, it's there, it can be found, we just have to want to find it.
Are you gonna eventually give like some recommendations or your?
Yeah, we're gonna finish hashing that list out on Wednesday's meeting, and again, the more the merrier, because you can help hone the list. I mean, take input from anybody.
Where do you meet?
Right here,
Okay.
6 on Wednesday.
if there's a significant number of board members who want to go, please do let me know so we can get this posted as one of our meetings. If we have a quorum, we have to post it or to participate. To post it. You'll be elsewhere.
Yeah, I have.
taking care of other.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for
another
that.
Budget discussion.
I'll be fresh from yoga, but so it'd be good.
Ooh, nice. So you'll plan on being here?
I'll try to be here, yes.
Think we post that as a board meeting,
Sure.
cause it sounds
Are we
like
gonna
at
have
least
a
4 of
forum?
us.
Okay.
Maybe
I
not.
don't know. We'll be there or not.
That's okay, if the 4 of us are going to be there, then at least you'll just say what you come in.
All right, so this is the 17th is the following week then. I just trying to get my week straight. Okay, we've got a meeting on the 17th.
We. The withdrawal committee.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions regarding the budget for any of our administrators or leadership team before we move on? All right, seeing none. Can I have a motion to approve the personnel list?
So moved.
Second, yeah.
All right, are there any questions or concerns, thoughts on it?
Just like the first personal report I've ever seen where it's been just nomination, and everything else.
Yeah.
It's like so exciting, it was so
Yeah, they're-
refreshing, so thank you.
All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion passes, thank you. As Kevin alluded to a few minutes ago, we are looking to schedule some public forums. There's a lot of things that we've all been kind of working on, discussing. There's things we know that we have to do in the future. So Kevin, do you mind just running through these for us?
Yeah, so my concern, if we don't do a public forum of some kind for the withdrawal studies, is that the deliberative session is going to be 8 hours long. Because
public
people
forum.
those people were so many questions about the withdrawal study. So I do believe we need a meeting before the deliberative session that addresses just the withdrawal studies. Hopefully, and make that a public forum so people will I also suggested we talk about reconfiguration. I was thinking about doing that sooner than later, but I actually, having to have some time to think about it. I think the reconfiguration public forum should probably be after the March vote, but like in March. So that people have, because I think if Walpole doesn't withdraw, you still have to think about reconfiguration to try and consolidation.
That way, yeah.
But there's also the thing we left off the table because withdrawal study happened to 195. Or
25?
195:16
A.
yeah, whatever that one was, that one still needs to be, that's an option for consideration. And especially though, if Walpole or Langdon withdraw, especially more if Walpole withdraws. There is, you still need, you have a bigger conversation about how the district wants to give the board some direction for how they want to proceed. So for that one, I think you would think about putting it off till after the vote.
I think that makes sense.
But for the withdrawal study, I think we definitely have to have that, and we probably need to coordinate that with the withdrawal study chairs,
I would
just to make sure.
like to not get into this too much until we find out what happens on Thursday. Because there is a real possibility that one of these studies is not gonna get out of that meeting with an A-OK.
Yeah.
It could
It
be
may
one
not
or
be,
it could be two, I don't know. But there is that possibility, just because Charlestown presented something and they were given the A-OK there are plenty of districts that go before that board that do not get off the ground on the first shot, so.
So maybe I'll make,
We can table it till next
make
meeting.
a motion to table this until our next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great if everybody in agreement.
Just to see how Thursday.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's.
The reconfiguration, I agree, I think it needs to be after March, but somewhat close to March, well, because. At least the pain is still right there, so people are still understanding. I think what happens sometimes is we get into summertime. And people forget, and it goes in the back burner. However, I would like the board to meet. At least a couple of times before that public hearing, and at least map out 3 to 5 different configurations that, people are thinking about,
So we need
instead of
to
just,
start with a blank slate, right?
yeah, whether it's 7 through 12 up here, or I don't know. Or whether I think we could do everything we need to do without building a whole new building. I think maybe we can do add-ons. But I don't think we need to build a whole new building, but.
No, and I'm sure as part of the conversations about what we have for class sizes that I'm sure are gonna be happening shortly. I mean, there will be an understanding of what rooms will have more people in them and what rooms can be used for other purposes. So that'll be all flowing together for sure. So, but we will move that until the 15th and we will have some opportunity to put some dates on the calendar. All right, fantastic. At this time, we had our public hearing about the Conval lawsuit legal fees that we have received in the amount of $32,590.94. Can I have a motion to accept those funds?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Kevin, did you want to discuss where that might be going?
I'll make this in a motion, so I'll make the second motion after this motion is finished.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the funds? Any opposed? All right, thank you.
To make an additional motion. I'd like to move to allocate $30,194.40 to Charlestown to offset the error in the account classification from this $32,590.
Second.
All right. Thank you. And so Lori, can you remind us of why we have that?
So there was, one of our, special service provider, related service providers was charged to the Charlestown, accounts instead of method 6. And so we did a budget transfer in, the first meeting, I think, of November to, move that position and corresponding, benefits. And it's not the entire position. Her position and role is, covered 50% by IDA and 50% by the general fund. So we moved the general fund portion from the Charlestown accounts to method 6. So it was a correction.
All right, thank you for the record. All right, any other discussion about the motion on the table? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you for taking care of that. Is there any member of the public who'd like to speak at this moment? Seeing none, most of them have left.
It's two.
Just two, and they're all involved anyway. So at this time, can I have a motion to take a block of minutes as one to approve?
I move to approve the minutes as a block of one for November 10th, public, non-public, and November 28th, public.
Second.
Any concerns or changes to any of those minutes?
I abstained from the 28th.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to approving those minutes? Seeing none, perfect, thank you. All right, we have our finance report. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
The only thing is that, we did receive our voc ed, tuition and transportation, aid, I don't know, I think it was the last day of November or something. But it was a little bit short of what we had actually budgeted for. So, on the, revenue statement, I have, adjusted that through the encumbrances. So it shows that we, won't be collecting any more money on that line. So then when I'm, estimating things, it won't, skew the information. I also, based on the fact that year to date through November, we've collected $8,100 for Medicaid. I reduced that from 75 down to 25,000 for estimate. We are going through a bit of a transition, so that might pick up. And if it picks up, then I can adjust that again. But again, I wanted to reflect a reduction in the revenue for just planning purposes.
Is there any indication about why that's happening?
That was Andy, can you?
Sure, I
I
didn't
don't-
realize that,
I know.
so, I do anticipate that picking up, and hitting our mark, if not going above. what
Going
our-
above,
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
perfect.
it's just, we've transitioned to a new company.
Yeah.
So we were in that transitional phase, so we're now submitting, so they've been collecting all of our submissions and they're submitting them now, we just wanted to make sure everything was correct.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I've had conversations, I don't anticipate us staying at that rate at all.
Okay, so this is not a long-term concern for us. It's just a right now concern.
Mhm.
Okay.
But with making the transition, I just wanted to
Appreciate that. Thank
You
you.
know, when we see it coming in, I'll adjust it again, so.
Any other questions with the finance report? All right, fantastic. Good.
In our folder was a budget transfer request.
That has been, is being tabled till later,
Okay.
because we didn't get it onto the agenda, so we're
Okay.
gonna wait on that.
All right.
As part of our budget discussion, we did not discuss the current leadership model. Anybody opposed to adding that to the agenda? Need to do it. We do. Can I have a motion to add an agenda item? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so we have been working under this leadership model for 3 months. For all intents and purposes, everything has been managed that has come into this district. I think there's been good communication with us. I feel as though it has been a successful start. The leadership team met yesterday to really hash out what was going on and how they're working through things, and it was, from my understanding, overwhelmingly successful. They're fully aware of the things that they still need to work out, the things they may not have anticipated. But for all intents and purposes, they're working well together. And I think, does anybody want to add to that at this moment?
No, I feel like the leadership team as a whole is doing a nice job addressing the immediate needs of the district. Right now, we're in the reactive stage versus the proactive stage. Our biggest benefit that we discussed the last time we met was our decision-making. Being a unified group really allows us to dive into multiple lenses when it comes to decision-making process. However, we also realize that there are pieces of the superintendent role per se that are a little cloudier. And one of the pieces that we are looking at improving is communication among the district. So that is an area of focus as we continue to move forward. And there are going to be some others that will come up from time to time, depending on the situation and what the district needs. But overall, we're doing a nice job and working very well together.
All right, that all being said, we need to have the discussion here. If that's the model we want to continue to follow, or whether we want to look at going back to the very traditional superintendent and then the next level being underneath that position. It does affect what the budget looks like. Do we want to leave that position in the budget? Do we want to do a study? Do we want to go continue on this route and then look next year to discover if it's still working and make other changes? Or how does this board see this working?
I'll go first. I'd like to see us remove the superintendent position from the budget, with the understanding with the budget committee that we will reassess this next year and have guidance in terms of adding it back in if we think it needs to be added back in. But I really do feel we kind of committed to a 2-year trial run.
That's good.
And I'd like to see that 2-year trial run itself out to make sure that's working.
Second.
All right. Are you seconding this as if he's made a motion to remove this?
Really a motion.
I don't think it was a motion. I'm
Okay, you
just saying,
disagree.
Chaz is sitting there going like this. I'm like, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that that's where we were at.
I think it's hard when you do a two-year commitment, but you keep this net underneath them. I mean, let them go. Let them go.
Let 'em
Sink or
fly without a
swim.
net.
You guys are gonna sink or swim. No, I think they're gonna be fine. This team has been together for a long time.
They have, and
And
one thing to note about that, even though we've talked about it being person-centric, is that they have actually all worked to have a succession plan. So we have that going for us as well as that net.
I think they know best how it's working and that it's working, and I kudos for them all stepping up and doing what it takes to make it work. I mean, it's And from my perspective, it does seem to be working quite nicely.
I think I've heard communication with the rest of the district being a concern for the traditional superintendent model as well. So it's kind of goes with the territory, so. I will make a motion that we do what he said. I'm never good with wording my emotions, but that we go with this and that we remove the superintendent position for next year's budget. And we let these guys continue to monitor how it's going. And if necessary for the following year, if it's not going well, we can always reconsider, but yeah.
They navigated that snow day like nothing. I mean, they called it before I even got out of work.
That was a good call.
It was, no, and I don't mean that lightly, because snow days sometimes used to be a huge issue with communities,
Yeah.
especially doing it at 5 AM. So, I mean, I think that's a telltale sign, so, good stuff.
I think we could have gotten the kids to school fine. I'm not sure we could have gotten them home.
Yeah, this one.
So that was good.
Just want to add to that motion that we're talking about salary, but also all related benefits.
Right.
So the whole package, whatever that whole, all in, all out. That's it.
So I hear that. We have a second on the table.
Yeah, we got two of the same motions, and I think we got 2 seconds, so we're
All right, we're ready to
It's
go.
there.
So the only other thing I'd like to say before we take a vote is that I really appreciate an organization that can recognize their own faults and work to fix that. And so full well knowing that they've said, okay, communication is a concern and they've already taken steps to address it. We will continue to work on those things. One thing I do also want to make sure we do is that we have a process for evaluations in the spring, and I want to make sure that we do hear from the administrators who are working directly with this way of functioning model, thank you. And so definitely know that we want to hear from everybody involved about how it's working as we move forward and assess it for next year. So
There's 3 of them here now.
are you all nodding? We all want to hear from you.
Look at Kevin, this is not a good time to ask him for input, look at him.
No, we don't.
He just looked at the clock, he's like, no,
It is dark out, it's cold.
no.
Yes, but going forward, we would have done a superintendent evaluation in the spring. We always aim to do it, whether it actually
Happens.
right before they leave us. But the intention is to analyze things properly, to set the goals and have those tough conversations. And we want to hear from everybody involved.
So just, is this something you all want? And this makes sense for you, for the budget, take this position out now, 3 months in?
I can speak to saying I definitely want school board support in doing this. I think there's been that kind of question as to, is this something that the school board definitely wants? So hearing that you do, that helps.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's the new format for a lot of districts.
That's what you said. We're gonna be breaking ground on a lot of different areas, this is one of them.
So what also goes along with this is that we currently have this position advertised as open. Am I hearing that we are fully behind this as a board and we are continuing it, and so we will be closing that job opening?
Yes, I am. Yes.
When we get to the budget, we should close the opening too.
Yeah.
All right,
That's part
I'm
of the
behind
motion,
it,
that's there.
if this is what they want. If
It looks
this
like it is.
And
Yes.
you're, yes,
Yeah.
okay.
all right, so with all that on the table. All in favor?
I,
Bye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Your nets are moved.
It's got $200,000.
They,
There.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for letting me add that, because I forgot to bring that up earlier, but that was a really important piece that we've been looking forward to doing, so. All right, policy approval. We are up to second read and adoption for policy JFABD. Is there any other? Can I have a motion to approve?
We're talking about the one that was all lined out.
The homeless students.
Yes. Yes, motion approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any other concerns with this document as written? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting JFABD, admission of homeless students?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Did everybody have an opportunity to read the proposed AI policies? This is a tough one. It feels like there's a lot of potholes to fall into. Do you have a question for me?
I think that Nick should probably explain, so I don't think the recommendation is to bring all three forward, it's really a or situation, so if you
Yeah.
want
Okay.
to elaborate on that a little bit.
All right, Thank you.
So I did some research of what other districts are doing as far as their AI policies and NHSA recommending for policy. And there's kind of two different ways that different districts are doing this. And so I kind of created a draft of, one model or the other, kind of to have you all look at those and kind of decide which direction we go in. So one method is creating it's a standalone AI policy essentially, which is the EHAG. Or the other option is to revise essentially the student and the staff acceptable use policies to incorporate a wording for AI use. So that's why there's three drafts. Two of them are the staff and student policies as individuals, and then there's the one that's the EHAG, which is the standalone AI policy. Chris and I met with a committee with a few teachers, and we all kind of discussed the different options. And I think generally the committee kind of agreed that the EHAG option is sort of the better one. It covers everything a little bit more thoroughly, I guess. And but we were kind of looking for direction from the board, I guess, on that. So.
Remind me if I'm correct too, from previous conversations, that EHAG comes from the New Hampshire School Board Association, has probably been vetted by their lawyers.
Right.
The changes to JICL and GBEF have not been.
Right.
And that's a more recent policy that came out from the New Hampshire School Board Association. AI has been discussed for a number of years at that level, and this is the first policy that really wraps in everything that they're talking about. So.
Are you currently blocking IP addresses for some of the unapproved websites?
So it varies a little bit for different between staff and students. For students, our content filtering software has a category to choose for generative AI essentially. So we can either block or allow that whole category, and then we can make specific site exceptions to each. So for students, for example, the generative AI category is blocked, but we could allow for exceptions for certain specific sites. For staff, I can't actually remember off the top of my head what it's set to as far as the overall category policy. But basically, I've been kind of waiting for some guidance and having a policy to kind of make any changes going forward. For example, Google Gemini is available to us through our Google Workspace environment, but it's, without a policy, I'm not really sure if we should be allowing it or denying it, I guess.
I know I work in a Microsoft shop, and we have a license with Copilot that does not retain any thing you add to it. It doesn't add it to the corpus, it just uses it and it reports back. Is Gemini offer that?
Gemini within our Google Workspace. So if a staff member were to use it with their district account, it would be protected. Of course, if they use a personal account and access Gemini, it would not be.
Okay.
But I think
the policy goes a little beyond the like individual tools like that, as far as there are so many tools out there or software products, for example, IXL or things like Canva, even that, people use to create newsletters, and there are AI tools within that. And so we turn those features off, even though Canva is an approved application, but not specifically for AI. And so there's a lot of nuance to it. And then from the student standpoint too, it's how do we allow that or not allow that in the classroom, in what capacity, how does it affect sort of the curriculum instruction aspect of things? So there's a lot of different angles and a lot of little places where it kind of finds its way in. And then there's the issue like deep fakes where, students creating content that could be, defamatory to another student or a staff member, things like that, that aren't explicitly covered.
Because right now, when we sign contracts when we approve software for use in the schools, we have to have assurance that the information is not being shared, correct?
Yeah, so we have to have a data privacy agreement with any software company that we sign on with essentially, and that would protect that data. So the protection of the data is kind of just one aspect of the AI uses. Then there's the level of like, well, is it cheating if a student is using generative AI to help them write their document? Maybe to one extent, but not enough. Using it to help make revisions, make suggestions, changes to a document versus like writing this document about, World War II or whatever. And so there's a delineation there. And then how do we handle that as far as like, do the students have to document what the prompt was that they used on this particular product? And what elements of the end result were created by AI versus, so I guess there's many tiers to it, and which is why I think the EHAG kind of covers that a little bit thoroughly. And there is at the end of the document, actually, it mentions that we essentially have to create a whole plan on top of having this policy, which we haven't yet done.
And I think that's what we would use our committee, once we have a policy and a direction, we need to create procedures or a plan that kind of outlines the policy and what would be allowable and not. So that would be our next step. Once we have this direction, we go back to committee and start working out some of those procedural aspects related to the policy.
It's one of the reasons I liked EHAG, because it did talk in there about it being approved for use, versus not just being all on or all off. So, I think I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the first reading of EHAG, if that's an appropriate motion.
Second.
All right, are there any other questions or concerns? Does anybody have any concerns with moving forward with a new policy? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, well, thank you for bringing all three options to us. We will go forward and, is this something you want us to have for a second read for next week, or is this something we can look at for later in or early in 2026?
I would prefer to have it sooner rather than later, just so that I feel like there's a lot of kind of elements that are on hold right now until we have a policy. I think there are teachers that are looking for guidance, and we've had requests for software products that have AI elements, and a lot of that's on hold right now until we have a policy in place. So,
okay, then I don't see any reason why we can't bring that back next week.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. We don't have any donations to discuss. We do have a non-public. We actually have two, both. Yep. So can I have a motion to go into non-public for A, the dismissal, promotion or compensation of any public employee? Do you have a question? Or we
Discussion. After this non-public, there's the information part. We're not talking about the high school study program tonight, at least, are we? I'm just thinking that maybe if we could move the non-public so that these guys could go home and not sit here. Since they all have to get up and go to school tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that if the board wants to.
Just information, because we're gonna vote on it next week when we had, if you wanted to have
Get it in
the,
front of you. So you had question, would be had question,
Right.
you could ask them, yeah.
so I thought it was just information anyway. It wasn't part of the agenda.
The program of studies?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing, we're not approving it or anything at the moment because there could potentially be changes from the budget. So
most of these guys can go home if,
So,
once we go into non-public.
yes, unless you wanted to absolutely move it up and have some discussion about it. No, you're good. Okay. So, and I have to do a roll to go into non-public, correct?
Yes.
Chaz?
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin, yes.
There, yes.
Melissa, yes. All right, thank you all for being here. We'll-
Laura, do you want these drafts back?
Sure. Okay, so. May I have a motion to? Do we what?
She made a motion to come out of non-public. It's been seconded. We need to have a roll call.
Oh, I'm-
Not a second.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Sorry, I thought we covered
I
that.
make a motion to ratify the,
Treasurer's report.
but no, I don't wanna ratify it. I'm pretty sure I don't wanna ratify that.
Okay, sorry.
But I will make a motion to accept the treasurer's report. How about that one?
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect, thank you.
I make a motion to ratify that.
The
Teachers. contract.
current negotiated contract and send it to the teachers union
Tentative
for
agreement.
tentative agreement.
Yes.
Wow, that is exactly what I wanna ratify.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very, very much. I am grateful.
I make a motion to adjourn. Don't look at that, just say, okay. There's
Do I
a
have a
motion on the
second?
table, somebody want a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Why you're talking to me like that?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you very much.
I think that's